evening, University of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. It is my honor and privilege to have this opportunity to speak with you this evening at this TEDx event on this wonderful moment of reflection theme. So I would like for you to take a moment and reflect with me. Imagine you have a life that is free of obstacles, where your dreams and goals know no bounds. What would you achieve if you could silence the negative self-talk and shatter all the constraints of negative stereotypes all around you? How would that affect your outlook in life? Most of us have heard of the phrase, you are what you think, or similarly, as a man thinketh, so is he, or as a woman thinketh, so is she. So let me share some numbers with you from the National Science Foundations, and they say in their research that the average person has between 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. And of those, each day, 95 are exactly the same repetitive thoughts as the day before. And about 80% of all those total thoughts are negative. And now, adding insult to injury, if we consider all the external factors some of us may be exposed to on a variety of stereotyping doses, and at times those stereotypes may not be positive. And so what does one do in this world? What if there was a way that one can resolve to operate on the contrary? If we could only silence the negative self-talk and stifle all those commanding voices of negative stereotypes, what would your goals in life look like? My name is Dr. Linda Mashiku, and I am an aerospace engineer at the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland, USA. And I am also the president and co-founder of the Jewel Foundation, which is a nonprofit committed to bridging the STEAM education gap for young girls in Africa, with a motto that says, give her a chance and let her achieve. You see, when I was a young girl, for as long as I can remember, I've always been fascinated by astronauts, rocket launches into space and spacewalks. At such a young age, this was my aspiration and goal in life, to become an astronaut. Now, the funny thing, looking back, was that neither did my mother nor father, discourage my dream. They actually championed it full throttle. They were all for it. And in hindsight now, in my young, fragile mind, it is clear to me now that, back then, if two very important people, two very important adults in my life believed that my dream was valid, I believed, and then it must be possible and even achievable. And so looking back at that moment of my childhood, it really was a key juncture in my upbringing, because it was at that moment when the seeds of positive thinking and the imagination of imperative possibilities laid the foundation of my academic pursuit and endeavors, because I truly believed at that time in my mind that I could do whatever I set my mind to do, even becoming an astronaut. My parents believed in me, and so that was the seed, and that was all I needed, and I received that, and it did allow me to blossom into the person that I am today, believing in myself. And so what if, no matter what your age is today at the moment, you were to make a promise to yourself, to nurture the seed that's within you, to begin to believe in your goals and dreams in life. Because what if possessing that positive thought pattern is the right weapon required to beat down these ginormous statistics of negative self-talk, or the boisterous tirades of negative stereotypes coming at you many ways? We may find that beyond the horizon of all these obstacles and impermeable walls are endless possibilities and opportunities. So during my high school years in Tanzania, I was surrounded by brilliant, competitive young girls. They defied these negative stereotypes. We all saw ourselves as equals. We never doubted our academic capabilities. We believed that, and that was because we were predisposed and exposed to competency. We observed and experienced all the tenacity and study habits of our peers and seeing their academic achievements, and we leveraged those as inspiration for ourselves. And so what happens when we enter the various advanced levels of learning in university and the workforce? What changes that allows the veracity of these negative stereotypical beliefs to start seeping into our minds and dreams and allowing them to gain a foothold? An interesting thing about stereotypes is that they are just superficial generalizations that are not true representations of any one individual, but they can have the powerful impact as a solidified truth. And so, how do we set ourselves up to face the daily, incessant, and seemingly endless barrages of negative stereotypical messages in our lives? And so, one way to overcome negative stereotypical attributions is to flat out refuse to receive them or accept them or allow them to define or limit our abilities by us making the decision to define our own that aligns with our own dreams and goals in life. So we triumph when we make the mental, heart, and soul decision to overcome and win. Because in addition, when we place more power in what others think of us, we become participants in creating these imaginary boundaries and limitations to what God may have for us. And there is really no reward to be defined by human limitations placed on us by humans when we have a higher power that has placed these talents and dreams within us, right? So, however, when we face, these strong challenges in our lives, having these strong determinants to redefine our future, life will always take you around, for a roller coaster, and changes happen and challenges happen in our lives. And so when I was 16 years old, our father passed away suddenly, and we were lost. I felt lost. It was difficult to imagine what the future would look like. I thought all of my dreams were no longer achievable. But I was able to succeed with the support of my family and my uncle, and I was able to pursue my education and my dreams. And so when life has its twists and turns and when doors are closing all around us, we should always be prepared, because when the door closes, God opens the window. When the window opens, we better be ready to jump in, because when we're climbing into that open window, our feet may not be touching the ground for a while, so we may be unsteady, and we need a moment to adjust. As we're crawling through this window of opportunity, it may be, metaphorically speaking, dark, cold, and lonely. But this is where resilience is birthed and established, because resilience is always built, brick by brick, but the cumulative growing pain points of all of our lives. Each and every time we survive through our perceived worst, it gives us the strength to get to the next stepping stone, to conquer the next conquest. And so, as students in an academic setting, how would that look like? It truly, really is one question at a time, one homework at a time, one assignment at a time, one course at a time. Working through each step with clear, measurable goals to achieve your dreams. And this works in everyday life too. And again, life as we know it, it never is really as we expect it to be. And so what happens, when you have positive thinking and self-talk, and silencing these negative stereotypes don't seem to work, or they don't make any difference in our lives? And how do these pillars, step up to the plate when life's journey takes us for a whirlwind spin yet again and again and again? So when I was in college, my early academic years were actually relatively easy. I had no trouble completing my assignments on my own. But as the years progressed, things got really hard. It is rocket science after all. And so at one point, as a struggling student, I considered giving up my field of study in aerospace engineering. It wasn't easy for me to form study groups because I had to hold down a full-time job during most of my undergraduate studies. And so for the most part, I pretty much studied on my own. And I remember one night I was in my apartment trying to complete an assignment, and I could not complete any single question. And I think at that point I decided to quit. I closed my notebook and I sat down to watch TV. And then a movie showed up, an unexpected movie called October Sky. This movie changed the trajectory of my life. The radical impact that this movie had on me, there were so many key messages in the story, but one that really made a huge impact was when the movie highlighted the date and the month that the first satellite was launched into space, and that was the exact birth date. Oh my gosh, I was overjoyed. I never knew this at the time. It literally changed my world. I told myself I was born for this. And I made a resolve at that time to continue on this academic journey and see where the road's journey would lead me, because nothing was going to move me now. And it reminded me that nothing is impossible, and it reignited my determination to never quit. And so sometimes inspiration can be found in the most unexpected of places. We can find ways to allow stories, other stories to inspire us. And so it is useless to compare our journeys or challenges with each other, because we are all unique and different, but we're yet equally special. However, when we allow other stories to inspire us, you're creating a virtual reference point that serves as a reminder that you too can go on and you too don't have to quit. It's like having your own personal cheerleader. And so, we're all created to make a difference in this world. We all have a duty to inspire and uplift one another with our stories. Sharing our unique perspectives can propel us towards our goals. And currently, as a co-founder of the Jewel Foundation, I've witnessed looking into the eyes of these young girls as they light up, as they're actively participating on these workshop activities, learning new things and experiencing knowledge growth. They're able to see possibilities and not obstacles. They're envisioning opportunities and not limitations. And so it is our collective responsibility to actively shift our mindset and recognize that we can overcome and succeed despite our obstacles and take the necessary steps to do so. In my career, one of the many things I love about rocket launches is the enormous force it takes to overcome the gravitational forces and atmospheric drag to launch into space, converting 1,000 pounds of fuel into thrust and fire. It's a feat of nature. It's truly amazing. And so similarly, as a rocket defies gravity, we too can overcome life's obstacles by asking the tough questions and identifying our own gravity, the things that try to weigh us down, implementing those solutions for a positive outcome. So for every challenge that we face, when we're asking the right questions, we fully assess the nature of our obstacles that we face. We are able to come up with a list of possible solutions to solve any problem. And so when we make the decision to avoid blaming someone or something, and rather focusing on how and what we can do, within legal bounds, of course, right, to obtain a breakthrough, you will always find yourself with workable options for your solutions, rather than the difficult circumstance that seemed impossible to overcome. And it is also never a one-time fix or a quick solution. You have to get up every morning and every day and stay in the daily grind to keep working your options until you find a workable solution. Failure is inevitable, but it is the determination to get up and keep on going that leads to success. And so now I work at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, and our center is named after Dr. Robert H. Goddard. And he has a famous quote that says, "It is difficult to say what is impossible, for the dream of yesterday is the hope for today and the reality of tomorrow." So I may not be an astronaut today, but I get to work on very interesting and unique missions at NASA. I've been fortunate to work on various NASA missions at various design stages and operations, designing orbit trajectories and analyzing the tracking solutions, missions like the James Webb Space Telescope that's currently taking images in the far reaches of the universe, or the OSIRIS-REx mission that recently returned a sample from the asteroid Bennu about 90 million kilometers away from the Earth. All of this has been really thrilling. And now I currently get to manage a team that protects the space environment by preventing satellite collisions in space for NASA satellites that are moving at an average of 7.8 kilometers per second. That is really fast. And so we get to discover the deep and explore the unknown and protect our world in various ways on the work and the things that we do at NASA. And so anytime when I get an opportunity to speak to the younger generation, I'm always reminded of the Jewel Foundation's motto that says, "Give her a chance and let her achieve," because she can. And this is not only true for the young girl from Africa, but for everyone, boy or girl, young or old, around the world, Europe, Asia, Africa, the Americas, everyone. we all can achieve beyond our dreams. And usually folks will tell you that it is not about the destination, but the journey, because it gets to shape you into who you will become tomorrow. And that makes the journey as equally important as the destination, if not more. And so, when you leave here today, I want you to make a promise to yourself that it starts with you. Aim to recreate a positive thought pattern. Resolve to define negative stereotypes. They don't help you, so don't accept them. Look for inspiration all around you and start telling yourself that I can and I will. So aim high, aim for the stars. You'll be surprised where you'll end up. And after you've been inspired to go for your dreams on this long and yet successful journey, don't forget to inspire others and lift each other up. Have a great evening, and thank you so much for having me. Good night.